is where people get it wrong. The goal is not the thing. The goal is the relationship. And what do I mean by that? At the end of the day, I believe that us as humans, we only need three things to thrive and survive. And that is love, connection, and growth.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this by now. We come to you every single week to bring you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, somebody from the business world who helps us understand that why and purpose is not enough. There's an underlying burn, and it's that burn that ignites your why and purpose and causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. Today, we are bringing you a very, very special guest, Joshua T. Osborne, and I'm going to make him wait so I can tell a little bit of why I'm excited to have Joshua on The Burn. Many people know that my alter ego is Bond 044. So I've always been this big James Bond fan, like James Bond movies. I love the thought of going on a secret mission. I love the idea of doing things that people have no idea that you're actually doing them. So I've shared this from time to time, but most of my work that you see on social media is it is a itty bitty tiny percentage of what I actually do. So somebody may see me with the Kansas State Wildcats and say, man, like, look at what you're doing. Like, you give these locker room talks. A locker room talk is like 0.5% of the actual work that I do. People have no idea what I actually do for the Kansas State Wildcats. I actually like it like that. There are speeches at events that I know you have attended this year that I actually help people write and figure out how they were going to deliver them from the stage, and nobody has any idea that I actually did those things. That's one of the things that fires me up the most. It's the work behind the scenes that nobody ever knows much about. Joshua came to one of our programs, Coach to Coaches, and that's where we had the opportunity to meet. And one of the things, for those of you that have been part of Coach to Coaches, you know that I invest my time and energy in getting to know the people in the group. I watch and I look for behaviors of people that I know get after it in life. And one of the main things that I always look at is, do people sacrifice time and energy to their families in order to only focus on success? And some people do that and they can be very successful, but it's the people who believe that they can love on their families, spend time with their families, that actually realize that's one of the greatest cheat codes for driving the highest performance in your life. Joshua T. Osborne, the reason why I'm so excited and I'm sharing these two things is, number one, he is a greater secret weapon than I am. So we're going to call him Bond. I don't know what the hell we're going to call him. He and I are going to talk about it and have fun with it. But that's the way that I view Joshua. It's this burning passion and desire to help people unleash the greatness that lies in them from digital marketing, doing things behind the scenes, and implementing strategies to help people achieve impact and growth that they never could without him. And number two, what I love about Joshua is his passion for his family. It's one of those examples of people in this business world that we live in today that doesn't listen to the excuses, doesn't listen to the naysayers, quite frankly, doesn't listen to the bullshit. He says, my family's important. My family will always be important. And so you'll see him cutting up on his story, driving the kids different places or going on vacations and loving on his wife and spending time with his wife, but also being wildly successful in business. I call that being the example. So my friend, Joshua T. Osborne, welcome to The Burn. We got to figure out what that alter ego is for you. But as I told you when we went through Coach to Coaches, just thank you for being an example in a world that quite frankly is broken in terms of what many people think and believe success is these days.
Well, yeah, this is actually a really good start because I think of things differently. And I think that's what really doesn't just set me apart, but sets my people apart. Meaning that I think most people go through life, especially in entrepreneurship. This is also in sports as well. You see a lot of sports athletes that they go in, they have these goals, right? And so, can I cuss on here at all?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome.
You're the guest.
They go through and they set these goals. For entrepreneurs, it's like, your first goal is like $10,000 a month. And so boom, what do? We start hustling, we start grinding, we start putting all of our time into this $10,000 a month. And boom, we hit it. And guess what happens? We have a little bit more sex with our wife or our spouse. We hang out with our kids. We get some high fives. A week later, we come back and we're like, we're not fulfilled. And so what do? What does our brain, what does our body tell us to do? Oh, maybe if I chase $20,000, maybe if I chase $30,000 a month, that's it. That's my new desire. That's what I'm going to go for. And then we go and chase that thing, right? And we go and chase it super hard, and we just pay attention to it, and that's our sole focus. And yeah, we hit it because what? We created a system on the first 10,000, so the next 20,000 is really easy, and we hit that 30,000. What do? We go back, we go have sex with our wife, we go and give our kids a high five, and they're living okay. You're buying them more stuff, and things are happening, and you feel like everything's going good. And we come back and we sit in the shop and we go, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not there. The fuck? And then we go 50,000. Or for football players, because a lot of fucking athletes are on here, it might be 25 receptions or 20 tackles in a year, right? Whatever that is for you, and you just chase that thing. But the goal, this is where people get it wrong. The goal is not the thing. The goal is the relationship. And what do I mean by that? I mean that at the end of the day, I believe that us as humans, we only need three things to thrive and survive. And I live by these. I'll die on the fucking hill for them. And that is love, connection, and growth. And so what we do is a lot of times we focus on our own love, connection, and growth. We want people to love us. We want people to, and what does love mean? Let's break down love as a characteristic in the first place. Love, at the end of the day, the most we've ever felt love, it might be when you were a kid. I know when I was a kid, I felt love from my cousin, Shelly, because my cousin Shelly would show up to my baseball games when I was playing baseball, and she was at every fucking game. She was always there in the back cheering on me when my own parents wouldn't even show up, right? So she was there. And so what is that? That's positive reinforcement. And so love is just positive reinforcement. And so we want people to positively reinforce us, right? We want that connection with them. We're like, hey, they showed up, hug, connection. We feel great about it. We have love and connection right there. The growth that I'm trying to have is in baseball at the time because I'm, ninth grade and I'm just getting in there. They just starting catcher and I just feel really good about what I'm doing, right? Or whatever. And so that's the growth I'm trying to have. And the whole time I'm focused on what? My love, connection, and growth, how I'm getting love, connection, and growth. We don't spend enough time thinking about how others are getting love, connection, and growth. And if we do, that's where the world fucking changes. That's where we actually control our lives. That's how we're able to be an amazing entrepreneur at the same time, an amazing father, amazing husband, etc. And so what do I mean by that? I think some of you need to slow the fuck down. You need to take a step back, and you need to ask yourself, am I loving on my wife? Meaning, are you positively reinforcing her, but not on some bullshit, on what she wants to grow in? For instance, my wife's a stay-at-home wife. The last few years, she just wanted to be an amazing mother, so I supported her in being a great mother. That's the growth that she wanted to have. Just recently, she came to me and said, I know what I want to do now. I want to be a midwife. And so she started school last week, right? So am I positively reinforcing her now on being a great mother? No, not anymore. I'm focused on her midwife stuff. So every time we have a conversation, it's how is that going, right? I'm positively reinforcing what the growth they want to have in their life, okay? And then once I have that builds connection. Positive reinforcement, love builds connection. Well, guess what? If I go in there and love on my wife and connect with my wife and make sure that she's on a growth path and she feels good about what she's doing in life, guess what happens when I come out here to the shop and I work a 16-hour day and I'm having fun chasing my stuff? Then she's bringing me out my food, right? She's making sure I'm eating the right stuff. She's positively reinforcing me in what I want to do. And now we've created a cycle to bring each other up. Most of you are missing that. Most of you are so fucking focused on yourself. You're out there just chasing your own fucking dreams and you're not caring about the people around you. Well, I'm here to tell you, relationships are the goal. You build enough strong relationships. I broke my back just recently. I was out for about 8 months. I absolutely did nothing in my companies, nothing anywhere, right? Most people, they want to grow an organization or a company to where it can live without you, where it just makes money without you. Yeah, I did that. But not only that, I did a company that thrived without me. That thing fucking grew without me. 8 months later, I came back. I'm 36% higher on cash in door. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? that happened because I care about the relationship. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about all of that. Money is derived out of the relationships in which I build anymore. I used to have a $30 million a year goal, right? And so that was my personal goal. I wanted to hit $30 million a year, and I hit it, but now my goal is 100 million. You think that came from me? No, motherfucker can't spend $100 million a year. That's not from me. That's from me looking at my team and going, what does Steve want? And knowing and understanding what Steve's trying to hit financially, Sean's trying to hit financially, Seth's trying to hit financially. And I start understanding these people I love and I connect with, and I know where they're trying to have their growth. Now I need to raise my standard. My standard increases, and now we all chase it together, and we're having fun, and we're positively reinforcing each other. And we've created this amazing atmosphere, this amazing culture, right? And that's what most of you are missing, is that you're so self-focused on what you want. You're not focused on those that you need the support in order to get what you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is so beautiful, and I love your passion, your enthusiasm. It's one of the things that I've just always loved about the relationship that we're building. There's a couple of things I want to pull out that you said. You fracture your back, right? A broken back. Many people would just like shut it down, potentially even for, I mean, there's so many elements. It could be depression. It could be fear. It could be doubt. It could be, will I even walk again? Will I train again? Will my life be the same again? And here you just had built systems and processes. Obviously, I'm a big process guy. And so sometimes you have processes that work, you have processes that need, to be fixed, and there's opportunities for those things to be fixed. But I looked, and it was like this belief, number one, like, I will walk again. I will be fine. I will get out of here. It's one of the things you shared, that you would spend time, learning from messages that I would have or others. And like, you sought this, I will go and attack. When we currently live in this world where people are weak right now, they're choosing to play scared. They're choosing to not invest in themselves. They're choosing to say, I'll wait until we see who the president of the United States is. I don't think any of the presidents have ever done anything that have dictated how successful I've become. I'll always have respect for whoever sits in that chair, but the reality is they're not going to do or say or pass anything that's going to determine who I coach or who I work with or who I speak to, period. That's just a belief that I have. And so you have a similar belief to where break your back, you're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Rely on your team. This is what I think is so beautiful, is you've relied so heavily, because I hope people heard what Josh said. He had one of the highest points of growth in the history of his company when he was at one of the lowest points in his life, because he invested in relationships when he was healthy. He invested in relationships when they were winning. So one of my favorite questions, and this is where I'd love for you to go, I always love asking people, high performers like you, how do you show up after you win? Because I logically can deduce the only way that happened was because you continue to show up when you win. You don't stop doing the things that cause you to win. So help us understand, how do you show up when you're winning? How do you show up after you've had a big win?
Yeah, this all breaks down to just consistency, and this is what most people are missing in their life. I show up the exact same that I do today as I did before I broke my back, after I broke my back, even tried during when I was sitting in my chair. I seriously, I bought this $5,000 chair from Relax the Back. It's called Zero Gravity. It pretty much puts you in a position if you were flying to space. So it's how astronauts have to sit when they get propelled so they don't break their back. And so I bought this chair, and I would seriously show up on these lives, and I knew my team felt it for me, but I would show up at these lives just because I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to stay positive, because I understand a huge aspect in most of our lives. This is really big, and this will be maybe a little right wing or whatever, but I'm just going to say it. I think a lot of social media and all that kind of stuff has really imprisoned a lot of people into living in emotion. And so one of the frameworks I have in my mind is understanding cause, effect, emotion. And really it's cause, effect, emotion squared. From that cause creates this emotion as well, right? And I'll give you an example. Like, go back yesterday, or was it yesterday? It was a couple days ago. I went to a softball game for my niece, Serenity. I'm really big at setting goals and understanding relationships and really focusing on the relationships I'm doing. And about 5 years ago, I came to the realization that my sister, my own sister, was more of a taker than a giver. And I didn't want to build a relationship with her anymore. Okay. This is my blood sister, somebody I was raised with. And so about 5 years ago, I didn't say anything mean or anything like that. I just stopped communicating with her pretty much altogether, right? To where we haven't communicated at all. Well, my niece, who I do still communicate with, reached out and asked me and her auntie if we would show up and watch her first softball game as a freshman. And so I said, yeah, I'll show up. Well, I just had a little baby girl. She's 2 years old. She's never met my sister before. So I walk in there I have my baby girl on my hip. I walk over, I see my sister. I walk up to her and I said, do you want to meet your niece? And she didn't say anything to me. And I was like, oh. So I patted her on the back and I said, okay. And I went and sat down up in the stage and I was looking out. Well, most people would sit in the emotion of that. They would get angered that she didn't respond. They would get all these emotions. They would live in this emotion. But I understand from my frameworks that cause and effect. So then I went back to effect and said, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and think about the emotions and all these stories that I'm going to tell myself, because our minds are ever meaning making machines. We constantly make these fucking stories. And so it's like, shut the story down, go back to the effect. What happened? What happened? That's the effect. Well, she didn't talk to me. Awesome. She didn't talk to me. What do you think the cause of that was? Right. And so then I look at cause and I'm like, well, at the end of the day, I know when I was a kid and she would come up to me in school when I was a little bit of a sports player. So I guess you'd call me a jock or whatever you want to call me. And so she'd try to talk to me sometimes and I would act like I didn't know her kind of thing. And then the next day she wouldn't talk to me again. She would try to give me the same play that I gave her because rejection affected her. Right. And so now I know the cause. Right. And so I live in that cause. And if you guys understand what I'm saying, I was the fucking cause of the effect of which I could have lived in the emotions. The problem is, if you look back to the 1920s and 1930s, those people, our grandparents, they didn't live in emotion. They lived in cause and effect. Jerry didn't show up to work today. Wonder what that was all about. And they didn't live in all these stories, but the way that media and everything is pushed at you all day has got you living in emotion all the time, which is the handcuff. At the end of the day, it's handcuffing you to other people's story or to the story you're living in your own mind, when in reality, we need to live in cause and effect. And if I really wanted to fix that relationship with my sister, I wouldn't go then have a emotional conversation with her about, oh, you treated me this way or this or that. I would go back and go, my rejection caused the effect. So if I just go back to the rejection and stop rejecting her and just start texting her every day that I love her, that I'm supporting there for her, what is she growing on? And I just started texting her, even if she didn't respond. And I went to a game 2 weeks from now. Guess what? I bet you she would smile at least, if not have a conversation with me. So we are in control of these relationships. We are in control of our lives. And it's my frameworks that allows me to know that. So when I broke my back, that's what I was getting to with this. When I broke my back, I knew that I was living in stories sometimes when I was like, because guys, I couldn't walk. Like, I was seriously in a fucking wheelchair, but I couldn't walk. I had a couple discs that herniated and pushed into my nerve, and it was stopping my legs from working and all that kind of stuff. And they were having a hard time surgery. They didn't want to do surgery. They always say, oh, this is a slip disc. Like the insurance tries to tell you all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? I ended up just paying out of pocket and going to Dr. Hammers either way. But I could have lived in those stories, but instead I understand cause and effect, to where I dig back and I go, okay, what's causing this, right? Well, what's causing it is I have a broken back and I need to be around positive people. I need to hear positive motivation speakers. I need to be around people that are out there getting it in life, so I can feel that blood. I can be around that energy, and I need to get myself around and be around those types of people every single day. So that led me to Ben Newman. I heard him online and I was like, this guy, I need to hear more of him. Right. And so that led me to your course.
So all this passion, this fire that you have, the relationships, the frameworks, a lot of people establish clarity of a direction they want to go, work ethic, habits, discipline, consistency. And a lot of it comes from pain. It comes from challenge, which I always encourage people. A lot of times that's where the burn comes from. Yeah. So this type of clarity, passion, fire, this type of approach to life, what is the burn for you? What was that pain? What was that challenge? What is it that you had to endure to be able to step into this very disciplined life of growth and success that you live now?
Yeah, I think I come from a broken home, obviously. And I think most of us do that, push really hard and really strive and never give up. Right. And so we go through a lot of hardships. So we understand what it is. Our pain tolerance has changed. And so if you go back and look at my life, it's like lived in a trailer park. Inside that freaking trailer park, I had like the worst trailer, rust on the outside, no carpet inside, floorboards. We even had a hole in their living room, blackberry bush growing up through it. Times that we didn't have water and electricity inside of there. Times when I wouldn't see my own mother for 30 days. And we had to learn to get through shit every single day. It was a different level of pain, giving up for adoption at the age of 12, went to an adopted family, lived with them, got kicked out of there when I was 15, almost going on 16, lived in my Dodge D50 Ram, little tiny pickup. I had to, this is such a good truck. I wish I could go find this truck. I lived in it for a few years, but I'd have to, you ever had to cross a starter? So you had to take a screwdriver, reach down inside of it, and then you'd have to cross the starter to get it started because the starter wasn't working. So I would be so embarrassed after school and because I wrestled and stuff. The only reason I finished high school at all is because I wrestled and I really loved wrestling. It was my passion, And so I was like, I have to go to school so I can wrestle. And that's all I could think about. But I lived in my truck during this time. Some of my friends in high school would let me take showers there and different stuff. And obviously I was in sports all the time, so I could shower there, but I lived in this truck. And so a lot of pain, a lot of pain comes from that, being lonely, being all of that. I get out of high school. I really wanted to be a dentist. I actually was like, I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to pull my family out of these generational curses. I'm going to go and do all this. So my passion was be a dentist, but I had no clue how to go to college. I had no clue how to fill out paperwork. I had no direction, no guidance behind it. So I ended up graduating high school. And a few months after that, I ran into this kid who was a couple years older than me. And he was doing really well. He had a really nice car and really nice stuff and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I'll just do what you're doing. Well, doing what he did got me 5 years in prison. And so ended up in prison until I was 24, almost going on 25 years old, got out in 2009. A few years in prison, when you first get in there, it's like prison gang stuff, fights, all this kind of stuff. They call it gladiator school. And so you go through a lot of pain in there. But imagine being in prison all alone, 18 years old, nobody to talk to, no family, no friends, no nothing. And just like being in that situation to where you almost get sucked into the environment, and you start living kind of that environment. And about 3 years in, 2.5 years in, I came to the realization, either one, I'm going to learn how to be a better criminal in here, or I'm going to be learning how to be a better human in here. And I chose the later. Ended up reading like a book a day, every single day in prison, just trying to learn business, learn just human psychology, like anything that I could learn, sales, all of that, and just kind of taking in that information. Get out of prison, I'm like gung-ho, I'm ready to go at it, thinking I'm going to start my first company and all that kind of stuff. And get out, walk into my parole officer's office, and the first thing he does is he grabs my wallet, because in prison, when you get out, they give you your license and all that kind of stuff when you get out so that you have it, your social security card. But he grabs my license and he's like, you're revoked. You're going to have a license the whole time you're on parole. So I ended up not starting my own company, but going to work for an insulation company at $50,000 a year. They're working me like dog slaves, 16 hours a day. I'm riding a bus back and forth, but pain, look at all that pain, right? Sooner or later, about 2 years into that company, I decide, fuck this, I'm going to go start my own company. Actually had a mentor at that time. He owned a lot of companies in town. I helped him to kind of chauffeur him. He was a pretty rich guy, but chauffeured him for free, all that kind of stuff. He kind of got me out of my own way to start my own company. But that's where it all started. I started that company. I was able to put my passion into something of my own instead of somebody else's. But once again, you go back to pain. There's a lot of pain there at the end of the day. Look at my story. It's pain after pain after pain after pain, struggle after standing back up. And I believe that's why I'm so successful in business. I was having this talk with one of my mentors. He's actually from the same hometown as me and stuff. And he's wealthy online as well. He does about $100 million a year online. But having a conversation with him, and he said one of the reasons, and he coaches quite a few of us, but I'm like his highest student now. And so he was like, one of the reasons you're so successful is that your pain tolerance is so high, your risk tolerance is so fucking high. And so when most people won't take a chance on themselves, get out of their own way and just run at it, Josh Osborne just says, fuck it, put it all on the line. Let's go. If this all gets ruined, I've already went through enough pain. I know how to rebuild.
That's where, many people on the show have heard me say so many times that it's all about the shifting of your perspective to where somebody could tell me no, or this doesn't go well. And I'll just fight because I watched my mom come to the dinner table with an IV stand to ask me how my day was at school when she was dying before my eyes, and essentially, passes away from amyloidosis 11 days before my 8th birthday. What could you possibly say or do to me in the business world or a personal setting that's worse than watching your mom come to the dinner table with an IV stand, dying before your eyes, and you're climbing under her IV wires to tuck her in at night because she can't make it to your bedroom because she's got no more strength. Yeah. And, so I think perspective is so important. I hope everybody listening is hearing that it's okay to have the pain. Like, look at the level of vulnerability Josh just shared. Like, do you think it's easy to share that he made mistakes? There were changes he could have made. But, one thing I've always learned for me, and Josh, you'd have to answer for yourself, but a lot of times we have to go through that pain. We have to go through a decision we wish we could change to figure out who you were destined to be. And I know for me, I'll take every bit of pain, every bit of challenge, every bit of loss I've ever had to go through to have the beauty that I have in my home, which is my greatest gifts now, which is my 2 children and my wife, Amy. Like, I wouldn't change anything to keep those gifts that I have and the relationships with people that I love in my family. And so many of those relationships come because of the pain and challenge that you had to go through. Is that the same for you, Josh?
Dude, it's exactly the same. And the truth of the matter is what I really hear you saying, Ben, is the fact that a lot of people, you already have the pain, you just don't know it's there. And that's true. Like, when you go back to me at the insulation company, I suppressed that pain just so that I could work for the man and just get through daily life and be stable, or what people like to call stable. I suppressed all that pain so that I could do that. And it wasn't until I started confronting that pain to where it's not a bother to me to talk about anymore, because I went through it and I'll go through it again and I would never take it back. But a lot of people, we suppress and we have these traumas in life and we try to push them away like they never happened. Well, you pushing that away is costing you years, because you pulling that in, embracing that, understanding that pain, using that pain for purpose, that's where you're going to take off. That's where life is just going to dramatically change for you forever. And so that's kind of what I heard you say there.
Have you thought about writing a book, but just don't have the time? We would love to help you make that dream come true this year. Introducing B&C Publishing. We offer an in-house 3-step process to help you bring your book to life. The whole process only takes 60 to 90 days. Compared to 18 months for traditional publishing methods, we work fast. To see if we are a good fit to work together on your project, email our team at info@bennewman.net. That's info@bennewman.net. Now, back to the show.
Let's finish here with something. You, as I mentioned earlier, I said that for me, whether it's with Kansas State or could be work with Microsoft or Google, or quite frankly, some contracts that NDAs and things of that nature, people will never even know the work that I did or where I did it. Help us better understand your passion, your business, really almost being like a king in the digital marketing space. Yep. You have been behind the scenes for so many years. Now you're being more vocal with social media, being more vocal with speaking and opportunities. Heck, building literally a studio, a theater in your house. He's got one of the greatest home gyms that you'll ever see, but building a theater where, keep in mind, I will be coming out to Colorado. We're going to be building something special. I'm going to come out there and do live events. So stay tuned. We have so much fun cutting it up and growing together. We don't know when the date's going to be, so don't ask, but we'll get details out. But there's so many things you're now doing to come forward. But help us understand, similar to my mindset, why have you poured so much into doing things behind the scenes to help others drive growth and become their best?
Because I realized that one of the things that really separated my family from the rest, or why we ended up being broke and poor and all that, is because we were uneducated at the end of the day. And I believe that education should come to all. And I believe it's not just education, but it's also it's also desire. I think that a lot of people that have been suppressed by media and different positions and different things that are said to them, or the kid happened to, like me, when tying freaking duct tape around my shoe because the sole came off and I haven't seen my mom in 2 weeks, so I don't know where to get shoes at. Those types of people, we suppress all the trauma, and then we live in our unawareness at the end of the day. So a passion of mine is to get people to wake the fuck up. And I believe that it all comes back to 4 things. And so I'm always focused on these 4 things. One is getting people awareness. I want them to be aware of their surroundings, aware that they can control their outcomes every single day. Every day. It doesn't matter what you went through. It doesn't matter what trauma. If somebody raped you, it doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. Have awareness to it. Learn how to start using that freaking pain on purpose, for your purpose of what you want to chase in life. And it might be going out and making sure all pedophiles get caught. That's great. Fucking let's go. But I want you to have that awareness. I want you to come out here in this world, and I want you to share your passion with the world. I want you to live, right? Next is accountability. Once we have awareness, how are we taking accountability? How are we every single day making sure that we're accountable to that awareness, and we're putting that into motion, really, at the end of the day? And a lot of that accountability comes back to communication, getting your message out, right? So we have awareness, and then we have accountability of telling people about what happened to you and how you're going to utilize it and how you're going to get it out there, so that you can be accountable to get it out there, so that people can learn from it, because it's so fucking valuable, right? And then next is tracking. I always talk about tracking in life. It's like, how can I get people then to start tracking all of this in their life, that they're doing the daily consistent things that are going to, in the long term, they might not happen today, they might happen next year, they might not happen until year 3 or 4 or 5, but they're going to happen if you're consistent. And if you're tracking them, you'll start to become consistent in your life. And then last, once I have the tracking dialed in, I have them take massive, imperfect action every single day towards their goals, towards their awareness, towards their accountability, towards their tracking, and just continue on that cycle every single day while working on their relationships. And so a passion for me is just to make sure that not a single kid out there ever has to go through what I went through in order to hit the levels in which I've hit. I believe that each and every one of them, they don't have to go through as much pain. They might live in a trailer park right now, but somebody out there somewhere should be able to reach a hand out to this kid and guide him. Don't be his fucking hero, but be his guide. Stand up and guide this kid to where he needs to go. And I believe a lot of that comes back to education. A lot of that comes back to Ben just getting, if I could get 100 high school kids in front of you, and we only reach 2 to 3 of them that live in that trailer park and are going through that pain, but it connects with them and it changes their direction in their life, and they become a dentist instead of going to prison, then that's where my passion lies, is right there with those kids that don't have what we all know to be working now, right? And so I just want to put it in front of them. I want to be out there now, just putting my message out as much as possible, so that it just comes across one of these kids or one of these adults, because there's adults that are 25 that, like he said, that aren't living with that pain, that are suppressing that. But if we can just get it out of you, then you can actually live. You're still a kid. You're still a kid that we got to open up. We got to get you opened up. We got to get you living fucking life. And that's where my passion lies, Ben.
And now you all see why we had to have Joshua T. Osborne on this year's Mental Toughness Forum. Now you see why I love his energy and his passion, because he shows up with vulnerability, with transparency, with honesty, with clarity, and with a willingness to do the work that it takes. And he's clear on his burn. He's clear of where he's come from. He's clear that pain can produce power inside of him to ignite that why and purpose and cause him to show up on the days he doesn't feel like it, and especially after he wins. We're going to make it easy, and I recommend everybody stay connected with Josh, not just because we're going to do some things together that you may decide you want to be a part of, but joshuatosborne.com is his website. We're going to give you all the easiest ways for you to be able to stay connected to the messaging, where he's now coming from behind the scenes, from behind the screens, from behind the strategy, to be able to help you take it to your next level. Josh, anything else that you would like to add?
No, let's get out there and win.
And winning is something we are both passionate about. And my Bond 044, and Joshua's behind the scenes. We're going to bring it more forward, provide opportunities to attack, and looking forward to the opportunity to win more with you. Make sure to stay connected to Joshua. We're going to give you all the links, make it as easy as possible. Follow the messaging, follow the opportunity to continue to learn more from his story, his power, and his transparency. Joshua, thank you for coming on The Burn. And to each and every single one of you, please share this episode with somebody that needs to be moved by fire and energy like that. Somebody who needs to be moved by the uncomfortable nature of vulnerability and transparency so that they can choose to find strength and power in their authenticity, their vulnerability, so they can move not only themselves, but others. This has been The Burn, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.